green technology, I think the term itself would have to be specified first. When we talk about green technology, we talk about many areas. One of the areas is green buildings, for instance. Another area would be green products, consumer products. Another area would be green transportation and associated products. So for us, for instance, as TÜV Rheinland, we offer services in all those areas, and in particular related to products. In China, where we are very active as TÜV Rheinland, we are offering services that make sure that products comply to environmental standards, for instance. And we, in the end of the day, also certify them against that, so that CO2 emission, for instance, caused during production is evaluated, but also certified. If consumers, and that is the case in Europe, get more and more aware of the footprint we leave on the earth, and we, as a third party, verify that products are manufactured considering the impact on the environment, there will be quite a benefit for the society. Of course, the responsible management of resources is one of the very important aspects in it. We make sure that products are manufactured out of recycled materials and that products itself are recyclable. So those aspects, for instance, in our view, are very important as well and make a big impact on the environment. One of the specifics, I believe, in China is, for instance, green transportation. We see that a lot of companies develop technology in the area of electromobility. We have seen applications of electromobility concepts in Shenzhen during the Universiade introduced just recently. We believe that also China is driving very much in the area of energy consumption, energy reduction, efficiency in energy use and in consumption, but also in generating of alternative energy. So we see that in many areas, Chinese companies are developing their own technology. In many areas, the governments develop concepts for sustainable concepts, for instance, electromobility, for green cities. So there's a lot of momentum in China in the moment. The 12th five-year plan, in fact, has one important target, and that is to drive down the CO2 emission and to improve the energy efficiency. And this is reflected in many, many programs the local governments as well as the central governments are initiating. Yeah, I think important is the holistic approach. In my view, it starts all with the planning, and during the planning, all the different aspects of sustainable life need to be addressed. That is the use of resources, the responsible use of resources, but this is also the recycling activities, this is the use of energy and the generation of energy, for instance, out of recycle activities, but this is also alternative transportation concepts. So there's many, many different facets, I think, in a modern city that would provide for sustainable concepts. So in my view, there's again very few initiatives in China. There's some initiatives, for instance, in Qingdao or in Tianjin or in Beijing on building green cities. And these initiatives involve many, many different partners. And some of the partners are involved in recycling activities, some of the partners are involved in green building technologies, some of the partners are involved in energy generation. There's a lot of different facets, and I believe that really the holistic approach is important rather than to look at individual facets only. We see in further urbanization. Half of the population within the next 10 years of the world will live in cities. And the transportation is a problem that causes not only a lot of traffic jams, but it's basically also a problem in energy consumption. And therefore I believe that modern concepts for transport in a city, and this is not only e-mobility, but overall transportation concepts, will play a very important role. But I believe that also the societies will look at the distances people may have to travel from work to home and forth and back. So again, a holistic approach is important in designing cities that basically can combine the lifestyle and the leisure time activities with the working activities, so that the impact from both is minimized, and that, for instance, in terms of transportation, traveling is optimized. But I believe also that in terms of consumption, we will see a big change. In energy consumption, we see that so far, still with the industrialization, the energy consumption is increasing, in particular in the developing world. And this has, to a certain extent, its limits. We see that China, for instance, is investing heavily in nuclear energy generation, but also at the same time very strongly thinking about energy generation out of alternative resources. And I believe that the ambitious plans that we see today already will even be further strengthened, so that the production of alternative or energy out of alternative resources will be a major drive. And then again, the alternative, sustainable use of materials. In particular, rare earth materials or other materials as well will be more and more difficult to produce. And the alternative material development is a very important aspect in technological process for 2050 and the responsible use of resources. So I think there's many facets which will drive the developments until 2050.